They went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Hey, good morning, peasants. Welcome to Peasants Perspective. All right, we're just making a quick camera adjustment. Are we live, Ron? Are we live?
We're live.
Oh my goodness, we're live. How fun is that? I am like super excited about this live thing. It really helps our audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of a sudden got a little boost. I mean, people are starting to find us.
Yeah, it's awesome. So please share the show, spread it around, post it on all of your social media, do all that great work about sharing the show. I mean, it's great stuff. Hey, we did launch our official announcement for 1776 Live. So here you can look at my screen. We are thrilled to announce Taylor John Atakis has teamed up with 1776 Live. So mark your calendar, Sunday, March 30th at 4 p.m. You're invited to an exclusive Zoom session to catch up with the recently pardoned Taylor John Atakis and discover the exciting programs he's launching with 1776 Live. We'll be announcing early bird pricing on Taylor's offers. There's a little link here to click to reserve your Zoom access. So I'll leave a link to this little... It was an email that went out to people that I had their email addresses, but we'll leave a link to this in all the show notes across all the platforms. So after the show, take a look for it. And sign up to that Zoom. And we're going to be talking about different classes and stuff that I'll be working on. I'm excited about that. Nothing's going to take away from the podcast. In fact, this is just going to be, where the revolution happens.
Right on.
Simple. No big deal. Okay. So jumping into the show today, we are going to watch a couple little things. Just typical conspiracy show. Like, we're just going to kind of continue to just hammer on the fact until you absolutely know it for a fact. The government lies to you continuously. Okay, so this is Tucker Carlson. This is kind of a super clip, or it's a clip, but it's talking about just the truth they hide from you.
You can't call 9/11 in detail because you're super informed.
Before the fact.
He called it.
Yes.
He literally called it in the summer of 2001. He said planes will fly.
Okay, so he's talking about Alex Jones specifically, because sometimes we were joking about Alex Jones last week a little bit.
Yeah.
And right, I mean, but he's right about so many things, right? So this is kind of going way back about how Alex Jones is right. And I'm going to explain to you why Alex Jones, so many people will describe him as the blind squirrel who finds nuts. It's like, well, it's not really that hard when you have a map as to where the nuts are.
Into the World Trade Centers, and they will blame a man called Osama bin Laden.
We know the government's planning terrorism. We know Oklahoma City and World Trade Center was terrorism. We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliners. If you do it, we're going to blame you because we know who's up to it. Or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame. If any terrorism comes, it's from this government. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s, running the Mujahideen war, whose family builds all the military bases over in Saudi Arabia right now, and sits on the board of Iridium Satellite. He's the boogeyman they need in this Orwellian phony system.
We know that he said that because he said it on tape multiple times. And then he said, call the White House and tell them this.
Now I'm going to put the call out that you call the White House and tell them, look, we've seen the news stories that you wanted to blow things up, that you have blown things up, and that we're aware of who the terrorists are if you pull this. This can stop the Hitlerian Reichstag event.
So I think it's interesting there where Alex Jones calls it a Reichstag event. So hang on to that thought for just a second, okay? So I love this here because it's like, listen, for those of us that have been labeled conspiracy theorists, everything comes down to your sourcing and stuff like that. Why is Alex Jones always out like a couple years ahead of the storyline, right? It's because Alex Jones gets his information from what he calls white papers, right? So the UN and all these highfalutin societies and, World Economic Forum and Council on Foreign Relations, they're not really like secret societies, like like the conspiracy theory smear likes to make you believe. They do clearly have some closed door meetings, obviously, but for the most part, a lot of their stuff is disseminated in white papers. It's kind of like Project 2025 that the conservatives were endlessly smeared that now they're executing by, taking down the size of government. Same thing. The left does the same thing. The UN does the same thing. There's all these white papers, Project 2030. When you actually vote for Project 2030, and then you go read it, and then you understand why your local zoning board seems powerless to stop some type of completely inappropriate new zoning change. And you're like, where is this coming from? It's coming from Project 2030. I thought that was a conspiracy. No,
that's just the plan.
It's the plan, exactly. It's the plan. So he saw, Alex Jones clearly early on, very early days of the internet, is gathering up all this information. Obviously, he's going out and doing some firsthand stuff. He called it, man. He called 9/11 like to a T. And it's funny. I was listening to Dan Bongino talking about evidence being destroyed and how almost that's impossible. And all of his time as a police officer and all of his time as a Secret Service agent, he'd never seen any evidence be destroyed except for this one time. This one time they had evidence get destroyed. Do you know when it was? 9/11.
Oh, snap.
So a lot of people don't actually really know this. Like, they haven't internalized this.
No.
But how many buildings came down on 9/11 in New York?
I'm going to say 3.
3. That is correct. How many planes hit buildings in New York?
2.
2. That is correct. So there's a third building. It's called Building 7.
Yeah.
Came down. Happened to also be where the Secret Service had an office.
Oh.
And their evidence was destroyed in this little thing. And anybody who goes down the 9/11 rabbit hole, like, that's like, hey, how'd the third building around the corner collapse?
Well, yeah, it was.
They had a laundry fire going on in the basement that had nothing to do with the planes that caused the whole building to. It's an incredible. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I know a lot of people. There's 9/11. There's people that are touched by 9/11. It's like a sacred cow. I get it, right? It's too close to home. If you're from the Northeast or you're from New York, you have it happened clearly. Right. So a lot of people get touched. But the reason when he calls it a Reichstag event, what was the Reichstag event in Germany?
I don't know.
So that's where they burned the books. That's where they burned that's where they started history, started day zero for Germany, like the Nazi party. This is the rise of the Reich. Reichstag was like, all former information that we don't like is now burning.
I was actually just talking to somebody about this the other day, but not in this way. I was talking about, how, there was a book burning, but now we don't necessarily have to have a book burning because everything's digital and people are getting away from books just kind of naturally. I mean, people still have books, but it's not like it used to be where everybody has their own library.
Yeah.
And what happens when, as we grow more and more accustomed to digital age and everything is just digitized and we don't need these, hard copies, they're just getting in the way. And then someday what happens when they just turn the electricity off?
Then we just immediately revert back to the Stone Age.
Right.
And have to rediscover iron.
Right. It would be like a new Reichstag event. All they'd have to do is turn the power off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this was actually something that recently I've been reading about because, there's that big company that says we're not going to have any programmers at the end of the year. Like, there's code writers. Like, don't go learn to code. AI can code faster than you ever will.
That's right.
Like, it's live. Like, there's no reason to learn to code. Like, you're never going to catch up with rewriting your own AI. You're going to use AI to write AI. Like, so this big, massive company that's employed code writers since the day code writing was invented is like, yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
Like, all of you people worked on your culminating project, which put you out of a job. Because now you've created a product that can code better than you can in 2 seconds, what would take you 2 years to code.
Yep.
Right? It's over. It's just like done.
Over.
So here in 25 years, no one's going to know how to code.
Exactly.
It's gonna be like, hey, do you know how to work on the Telegram? I don't know how to work on the Telegram.
What's a do loop?
Yeah. Can you surface an 8-track tape? I don't know what an 8-track tape looks like. I don't know.
I couldn't pick one out of a lineup.
Couldn't pick one out of a lineup. It's the weird looking cassette thingy, right? Really though, it's a Reichstag event. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I've heard it. I heard him call it that, and then I was like, oh yeah, Building 7. I just heard Bongino say we lost evidence on 9/11 in the Building 7, and I'm like, oh. Well, that explains it. You know, it's really funny that plane hit right in the accounting office of the Pentagon day after Rumsfeld's like, we don't know where the trillions of dollars are. Point being, again, this stuff's not obvious, right? Quite a few episodes ago, we played the clip where they talked about after World War II, and then you advance forward to like the Korean War, and it's like the West was trying to go out and actually fix problems, like actually, you know, create peace and overthrow dictators and all that kind of stuff, you know, flex some nuclear muscle. And they realized this doesn't work. Like, world's a big place. People are weird. Like, not everybody's in the Truman Show. And so they decided just to focus on Jet. Let's just focus on the Truman Show. And so people within their realm of influence, they've just cast a vision of this is what the world is. And, you know, that's what they're going with. Well, that's all fine and dandy, except when they're actually in control and when the rubber hits the road, things don't work. So here's Bill Maher. This is a longer clip. I don't mind playing these longer clips because I feel like it's raw information. Bill Maher is in that really interesting spot because he's been a longtime Democrat, longtime liberal, right? He's been around forever. If you're liberal, he's one of those signal makers, right? I don't know that he's read in on like any secret agenda or anything, but he's just a stalwart, like always going to have that liberal
take
perspective. Yep, that liberal take. He's been touched by the ridiculousness. And this is what is our hope. And this comes with the tagline, it may be game over for Democrats. Let's talk about that, because it might be game over for them ideologically. Doesn't mean it's game over them for them electorally.
California is projected to lose 3 seats, New York 2, also going to lose a seat, Minnesota, Oregon, Rhode Island, Illinois, all blue states. Who's getting these? Texas, Florida, Idaho, and Utah. I mean, this looks like game over, you know, and the reason why people are voting with their feet is a lot of what your book is about.
Yeah.
Taxes and regulation. I certainly been screaming about it forever. I did 3 years with a sign here that said, how long is it going to take for me to get my solar hooked up? 3 years. Talking about it on television in this state. You couldn't do it. This state has almost 400,000 regulations. I just put in a new roof because the fire, I thought, oh, let's get a roof that's not going to burn up. 2 inspections. Why are you inspecting my roof? It's my fucking roof. If it falls on me, that's my problem. And we're taxed more than any other state. People are leaving these kind of states for places where they're not, they feel the heavy breath of government on them. It's not that hard for Democrats to understand this, but they seem to be incapable of doing anything about it.
So we poll this. They're leaving on cost of living. That's all part of it. They're leaving because they can't afford homes. And it's a huge, not just political problem. Those numbers you just gave. After 2030, if that holds, a Democrat could win every state Kamala Harris won, win Michigan, win Pennsylvania, and I'm just blanking on the third blue wall state, win Michigan, win Pennsylvania, and win Wisconsin, and lose the presidential election, right? The blue wall would no longer be enough for them to win. And you have to take that.
You mean they could win those 3 states and still
lose the presidential? That's how bad it is, right?
Wow.
And that's because they are driving people out, working class families out of the states they govern, because the cost of living is too high. And the cost of living is too high in part for regulatory reasons, in part for taxes. But the big problem is they just don't have enough of the things people need. Not enough homes, not enough energy, not a government capable of delivering. And they've been treating that as not a real problem. You were talking about your solar sign. California high-speed rail, it's a huge disaster, but nobody's ever done anything about it. If you tried to build it again, it would go the exact same way.
High-speed rail?
Yeah, California's high-speed rail.
I think we first passed it in 2008. I think they just voted about something about it again. It's projected. Just give up. Just give up. It's a bill, I think, from Bakersfield to Merced. Who the hell wants to go from Bakersfield to Merced? They couldn't do that.
I went out and toured this in a bit. And the people building it were perfectly clear with me. Look, this doesn't work if we don't do LA to San Francisco. And they don't have the money to do LA to San Francisco. And they don't have the regulatory structure to do it. They have been clearing. They started clearing the rail track through environmental review. The whole point of high-speed rail is it's good for the environment.
Right.
They started clearing it through environmental review in 2012. By the end of 2024, when I was fact-checking the book, it was almost done. The reviews were almost done.
Yeah.
And the thing that bothers me about it, in addition to we didn't get high-speed rail, is they didn't change it, right? Okay, huge failure. Learn something. Make it so it won't happen again. The problem is the right, we've just been talking about this, the personality type of the right is autocratic now. And the personality type of the left is bureaucratic. And you can't govern if you are this obsessed with process. And you can see it in the outcomes. If you want to sideline dangerous populist right autocratic movements, you got to offer people the fruits of effective government. If the places you govern are not advertisements for your governance, you are going to lose.
Yeah.
I think that's what it ultimately boils down to right there.
Hell yeah. I mean, everything he was saying, I was just picturing all of the exact same things that are happening in this state that are affecting us in the exact same ways. How a Democrat's never seen a policy that they couldn't improve, and all those policy improvements add up to just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So jump onto my screen here. I want to show people this. So this is the Overton window of a political possibility. So this kind of incorporates when I talk about politics being a spectrum that's like a circle, like if you go to the right, to the left, you end up looping back around to the beginning. This kind of shows the same thing. Think of this like a dial, right? So you've got a centered democracy, right? Your political policy possibility. It's right here in the middle, right? And if you go to the left, right, left ends up towards a monarchy, some kind of communism, tyranny, corporate feudalism. You go to the right, you end up freedom, liberty, God-given rights, and they call that anarchy, right? Which, hey, you know what? Pros and cons either way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you go the other direction. You got your Republican, conservative, your liberal, Democrat. But notice how you've got in the middle your moderate, right? Who's every extremist's enemy. Then you go up a little bit, down a little bit, right? Concerning, suspicious, challenging, destructive, unacceptable, radical, unthinkable, rioting, civil war. And you end up going that direction both ways.
Oh, I just noticed that.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you wrote it's like spin the dial, or you're going left or right. You end up at one of these spots where you're always, suspecting the other kind of thing. And both ends up in rioting, civil war, and unthinkable behavior and stuff like that.
Yeah, you could use this to create some pretty incredible Venn diagrams.
Yeah. I love Venn diagrams. I wish we had like the little hot button cues. I love Venn diagrams. Like Jimmy Fallon does that on his show. It's kind of funny. All right. So I wanted to show this because it's something that I might show more often, but this is one of those things like, listen, we want to be like what we call moderate, right? We always want to feel moderate. Moderate is really just that common sense thing. Like, it's like, hey, if you want to be an example of good governance, maybe when we're trying to do something good for the environment, don't make it take longer. Hey, this high-speed rail, maybe not 20 years on environmental review, since it's like the whole point is it's better than anything else we're doing for the environment.
Right. So if you could get the thing in place on year one, then those 20 years while you were studying all that stuff, you could actually be less impacting on all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. This is David Sachs. So he's in the administration now, and I wanted to play this again too, because again, there's like this Truman Show idea of what our government is and what the international order is and how things operate. And we are getting fed so much disinformation for so long, and so many of these outright lies that happen to us, they go on for decades. I mean, you think about the JFK situation. You remember the Gulf of Tonkin. I mean, that's the same episode. Got us into the Vietnam War. Didn't happen. We were never attacked in the Gulf of Tonkin, right? But it took decades. And I don't know if they've ever even, I know they've officially admitted it, but it's like in hushed tones, you know what I mean? Thing after thing after thing. So now we're just at the point where it's like, listen, the Truman Show was great until I couldn't get my building permit. The Truman Show was great until we had a wildfire and you couldn't provide emergency services. The Truman Show was great until the hurricane showed up and FEMA skipped over my house because I'm a conservative. The Truman Show was great until you actually limited my free speech and, I couldn't do whatever. And it's all the government who claims to support free speech, right? It's like it all works until it's in your front door. So this is David Sachs, talking about just the financial system and just in general. And he calls the U.S. as the most lawless country in the world.
The United States is the most lawless and dangerous country in the world by far. You cannot believe how much misinformation we get every single day. Because I have advised more than 100 governments around the world. I have seen things with my own eyes. I've seen U.S. CIA coups with my own eyes. Governments lie, but superpowers make super lies. And if you're running the largest war machine in the world, hey, you are going to lie all the time. The entire Iraq war was not because they thought there were weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction was the outcome of a focus group inside the Pentagon. How are we going to sell this war to the American people? Who made the decision 2 days ago that ATACMS can shoot deep inside Russia? Another brilliant move. We don't even know if the president of the United States is compos mentis right now. We have a deep state that takes these decisions, not a word of explanation to the American people. It's all lies. And I've seen it all through my life because I've been advisors to prime ministers and to presidents and to central bank governors and to some of the wonderful people on this panel. And I've seen a lot. United States.
What I love about the current administration is it's full of people like this who have called it out.
Yeah, they've taken they don't have rose-colored glasses.
They don't have rose-colored glasses, exactly. So you think about this. I mean, it's a long list of things. Department of Education, untold amount of money, no outcomes at all, right? No positive education.
Worse outcomes,
right? Your inner cities where Democrats run, crime's going up, it's getting worse and worse, which is saying a lot because a lot of our inner cities were cleaned up. Apparently, New York was a good place to be just a decade ago or whatever.
And whatever city you're in right now, just think to yourself. I know what the plan is going forward to make this place better.
Yeah. If you don't have an affirmative answer to that, if the answer you're being told is more tax levy,
right? That should tell you something.
Should tell you something. Yes. Okay. So you've got all of that. You've got the government abroad is really running amok. So we promote democracy here at home, but then we deny people around the world self-government, right? For who knows what reasons, mostly probably corrupt intention. I understand having to protect American interests. I get it. I support the Navy. I don't like pirates. It makes sense. It makes total sense. Yeah. However, I don't like the idea of like overthrowing other countries' governments and denying those people the will of their government because we want a better banana deal.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about what's going on, what's happened down in like Central America, the banana wars, it's pretty incredible. It's like, sometimes you worry about karma, or as they call it, blowback, right? This is another.
And also, like look at the avocado market. Ugh. There's a lot of.
Isn't it just like a front for the drug cartel, basically?
Yes.
So all you drug toast, all you avocado toast people, which that totally wasn't a thing, right? You're like helping the drug trade. Like your avocado toast is like funneling drug money. You are literally helping them launder drug money. Yeah. Avocados just grow on trees, by the way. You don't have to pay that much for them. There's an entire American avocado market. You can't get an American grown avocado because they've cornered the market. All right. So this is a guy named Norm Eisen, and this name comes up from time to time. He's one of these attorneys like Mark Elias and others, works for these powerful law firms. So this is Norm Eisen, and there's a couple clips from him, and we're going to break it down. But pay attention to what he's talking about. He's a private lawyer. Okay, he doesn't work in government, but he works around government. He's one of these attorneys that had his security clearance revoked and stuff like that. Let's listen to this.
We have a strong team, judge, prosecution team, very good defense team if Trump lets them do their job. I thought.
Okay, so he's talking about Trump's trial. He's saying we have a good team, and he's including Alvin Bragg with the judge and the defense team too. Okay, we have a good team.
Today's proceedings with the note coming out from the jury. And then while we were getting ready to answer the first note, we got a second jury request to have the legal instructions read back to them by the judge, which was an 80-minute adventure.
Okay. Did you catch this?
No.
He's consulting the judge.
Oh, shoot.
He's consulting the judge.
Oh my.
We were preparing the judge's response to the jury, and a second note came out. Oh, he was working with the judge. Norm Eisen accidentally told the truth that Judge Juan Merchan was part of his Bragg lawfare team. It didn't take him long to figure out that he messed up.
Oh,
A previous post that Norm appeared to say that he was writing documents for the judge. If true, that means Norm created the Bragg case and worked with witness Michael Cohen, and he worked with the judge.
Oh, boy.
So, again, our president, 34 felons. It's like, you got this guy here.
Pretty good team.
You got this guy here. Yeah, you got this guy here. So, and keep in mind, this is the same guy. This was everything that's been happening to Donald Trump and all this. I mean, for this audience, it's old, right? For this audience, we're saying the thing that you've heard a million times.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, you're tuning in this morning on Rumble, which means you're already a conservative, because I don't think people on the right use Rumble, except on accident, or the left, excuse me. Point is, this is like old hat. But we have to remember this, because if the truth is not spoken, if the truth is not spread around and that idea doesn't take hold, then what happens is the people who want us to forget the bitterness of the fruit that they've presented us will want us to take a bite over and over and over again. I remember in college, there was a transparency that the college professor put up. Remember the transparencies?
Oh, jeez. Those are like 8-track.
I know. Like, again, I don't even know. Do they make those anymore? Like, they're probably in some warehouse somewhere in Indiana. Like, oh, yeah, there's the last of the transparencies.
That's
overhead projectors. Like, do they make replacement parts?
Oh, shoot. The light bulb burned out.
Yeah, good luck.
Oh.
I don't know. The halogen's going to project quite right. All right. So, old transparencies. Okay, so he puts up this transparency in college, and up on the wall, it's what do they call them, ad libs, where it's like fill in the blanks.
Okay,
and so it's like
Mad Lib.
So it's like XYZ happened, then something was reported, XYZ happened, the American media published XYZ, people were outraged, a vote was taken, pretty soon you're at war. Right. So it's got this thing. So he goes, fill in the blanks. And in this class, we had basically just gone through like a high level overview, start to finish, of American history from the perspective of like the left right Hegelian dialectic of politics. Like, how did we march our way along this journey and get to where we're at? Okay. It was good. It was really a good high level overview class. So he puts up this transparency, and at the time I'm like in the ROTC, I'm like wearing my uniform in class, the whole thing. And he puts up, and I'm starting to be really disillusioned, because it's just like war after war after war. Not all of these are really great, kind of thing.
Yeah. You weren't eating the yellow cake?
Yeah, if you're in the military, there's a surprising amount of deployments that, we don't teach our kids that people went on. Like, do you have any idea what we were doing in Panama? So I fill out the transparency, and in my mind, I'm thinking Iraq war, right? It's like something happens, weapons of mass destruction, we move in, right? The whole thing. So then he puts up the answer transparency, and it's the Spanish-American War. Oh. It's like the sinking of the Maine and the yellow journalism and all that stuff. And then he pulls it off. It puts up the World War I.
Oh,
it pulls
shoot.
it up, puts up World War II. Puts up Korean War. Pulls it off, puts up Vietnam War.
They all fit.
They all fit.
It's a
oh my god,
freaking map.
Pattern.
It's a map to war.
It ruined me, man. Because then I'm like, we shouldn't be going to war with Libya. We shouldn't be going to war with Iraq. We shouldn't be going to war with Afghanistan. Why are we in Ukraine? What are we doing with Palestine? These are not our. It's the same thing. October 7th. It's like it's the same playbook over and over. So once you see it, once you have the peasant's perspective, and you're like, hey, listen, if my sons and daughters are going to die, you're going to have to come up with something better than they might have weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to see your receipts. Okay.
And maybe I say it too much, but I just love it. Yellow cake.
I got yellow cake. It is unnerving. It's really unnerving.
Yeah.
Peasants, our perspective. Listen, this isn't complicated. We're selfish by nature. Okay. This basically means I want to take care of me and mine and work out from me out. Okay. Because I can only be me. I don't want to go fight in wars that you're justifying with a moral cause with a real commercial truth that behind it. Look, if you want to protect the banana trade, that's fine, but don't convince me I'm fighting communism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no, this is about bananas. This isn't about, you know, South American dictators, is it?
We don't have to turn it up to 11.
Yeah. And remember, when you push against this, right, the machine that wants to fight this war, when you're a superpower, you have to make super lies, right? All governments lie, duh. But when you're a super government, when you're protecting the waterways around the world or everything you're doing, I mean, you got to make some, you got to tell some whoppers sometimes.
Well, some of those little lies might not get the job done.
Yeah. So here's where it gets really down in the nitty gritty for us, because our government, we're supposed to be the light on the hill. You know, we're supposed to be the true democracy, experiment in self-governance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yet our intelligence agency that denies that right to others has turned around and been weaponized against us. Right. So you think about what Donald Trump has done, what he has accomplished, everything he stands for. And then you think about how they've been weaponized against him at just every level. So this is Ratcliffe. This is before the election. This is him talking about kind of just everything they've done to come after Donald Trump, specifically like some of the setup stuff. These are like the blatantly on their surface, like unethical, if not completely illegal things that the intelligence agency has done to Trump.
Yeah, so that famous photograph, what we have now learned, and the government has had, Jack Smith and his prosecutors have had to admit that that was staged, and those top secret classified sheets that all the public saw and said, oh my God, look at those top secret documents, those were placed there by the FBI. And what Jack Smith admitted in court this week was that, in his word, they mishandled the classified documents and misrepresented those to the court. Maria, that's a kind way of saying we tampered with the evidence, then we lied to the court about it. And they got caught when President Trump's lawyers and the other co-defendants raised this issue and said, look, the documents here don't match up. The documents that were presented to us don't match the digitally scanned records of when they were taken from Mar-a-Lago. And Jack Smith, not only did they tamper with that and lie to the court about it, but he's now admitted to the court that he doesn't know how that happened. He's only offered a number of possible explanations for how that could have happened. So he's absolutely blown the chain of custody. And again, he has a prosecutor, lead prosecutor in this case, Jay Bratt, who met with White House counsel and a representative of the National Archives in several times in the weeks before Jack Smith was even appointed. This reeks of crossfire hurricane when the Obama-Biden administration fabricated evidence before the FISA court, lied to the court about it to pursue Donald Trump, and now we're seeing it again in this classified documents case. The judge could dismiss this case at any point in time, Maria. I think the only reason.
And she did eventually, based on Jack Smith's unconstitutional appointment. And look at the fruit of that poisonous tree. Unconstitutional appointment, fabricating evidence. I don't know how we did this. I mean, I know this is exactly what we're telling you the president did, the mishandling of the documents, and that we've done it. But I don't know. Isn't that incredible?
Gosh.
Just weaponized. Remember, the most dangerous country in the world by far is the United States. Okay. It's its own government going against itself. This is like, you know, big picture view. You think about like the Roman Empire. There's always this kind of intrigue back and forth. And on one level, I want us to be big picture, but at the other level, I want you to realize that this is so granular, right? Like these people like Norm Isom created these little prosecutorial teams with judges and White House counsels. And then you've got Jack Smith and who's meeting with who and overlapping. And is this all ideology just manifesting, or is this like a cabal of people making a plan? It's all of the above.
Yeah.
Right. It's all of the above.
Soup.
And with all of that, remember, the Trump team is its own little cabal, right? They were out they call Steve Bannon calls him the winter president. You know, he goes down and for 4 years collects himself and builds his team. And right. And now here he's coming in and he's just, DC's got people selling their houses, people getting fired. Oh my gosh, I've got to come back to work. I haven't worked in 5 years. What have I done last week? 5 things. Are you kidding me? I haven't done 5 things in the last month. You know what I mean? Like, there's just utter chaos. things, our pets' heads are falling off. And then you got Donald Trump over here taking away security clearances. Oh, that was big this weekend, right? The Liz Cheney, the whole Biden family, the whole slew of people that he took away clearances. This is on top of the law firms that he's taking away clearances. Well, this is starting to actually play out. Remember, this is all personal. These law firms and things like that, these are like power brokers, because politics is power. Listen to Steve Bannon talking about the net result of what Trump's done by taking on Columbia University as well as these different law firms and how they've come in and bent the knee. This is awesome. And remember, this is personal. When you look back and you study like Julius Caesar and Cicero, these men had personal relationships. They had personal beef, right? They had personal stuff going on, and it played out with the whole Roman Empire having consequences from it. Us peasants have to pay the price for their petty squabbles, right? So on one hand, I've got a team. I'm on one of these sides, right? Like I clearly am a partisan. But at the same time, I want to be really careful. I want to look far enough down the road, because I don't want to empower the right team to put the boot on any more than I want to empower the left team to put the boot on, because I've had the boot on my neck. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're in a communist gulag or a fascist gulag. It's a gulag. It's a gulag, bro. It sucks. Okay. All right.
Here's what they did. The big law firms with President Trump and his advisor, this has never happened in American history. This is how they were going to crush the Trump movement on two levels. Remember the billboards? If you see something, say something. Remember those days in January, the dark days? Let's not just forget President Trump, the Lion and Winter, going back to Mar-a-Lago. But
I got to say that. Remember those dark days in January? He was referring to January 2021. I was arrested on February 11th. I think we stopped doing the show early March.
I'd have to look back.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And that was really hard. We kind of phased it out. We started taking all the back episodes down, only keeping like one episode up at a time. And then we went subscription for a moment. It was really hard. My bank account was getting nuked. I was getting notices every day. Facebook was not allowed. I'd already deleted my Facebook account, but still I was getting all the notices. You can't have this account, can't have that. I can't forget, my no account with Lyft, no account with Uber, like thing after. It's like, what is happening here? I mean, it was like dark days. It was just completely weaponized. If you weren't in it, that was kind of a hard time.
Complete assault on everybody. Down in Georgia, the billboards. Remember we brought up the film about the Stasi in East Germany. We used to talk about it other times, The Lives of Others. And if you haven't seen that, please get a chance to see that film, The Lives of Others, about people ratting on each other and how the secret police. That's what 21 was like. That's what 22 was like for people around President Trump, the people around him. We were debanked, we were deplatformed, but you also couldn't get any representation. You had the Justice Department and all these people coming after you and going to run up millions of dollars and committees and the phony J6 committee, everything. And Trump had nothing. This is Boris Epstein putting together really a pickup team, because every law firm fired you, and Paul Weiss was at the tip of the spear when he was in the Oval. Buried lead in the New York Times article, President Trump brought that up to his face. Carp, the partners are Paul Weiss or turf you out immediately. You're a gutless coward. Behind the scenes, you're a big shot. You're a tough guy. You went to eviscerate this populist movement, crush it, to kill it. Big talking. All these guys are so tough. This is why I went to prison. I was proud of it. Screw you. You're not going to break me. You're not going to break Trump. You're not going to break us. We'll spit right in your eye. You're a big talker, dude. You went down. It is a total and complete humiliation for the partners of Paul Weiss and Bill Burke and all the guys that work with him that tried to last week try to get Covington and Burley, because this all came because they went after the law firms. I told you this was going to be huge. They went after the law firms. Perkins Coie, Covington and Burley, Paul Weiss. And they were all going to gang up and do all this stuff. You did nothing. You surrendered in 72 hours.
Okay. So do you know who Baghdad Bob is?
I've heard some other Baghdad names, but not that
Baghdad
one.
Bob. So Baghdad Bob was like Saddam Hussein's publicist or communications director. It was, minister of propaganda was what he was.
By me.
He was Saddam Hussein's Goebbels. Okay. So he was Baghdad Bob. He was the one on TV every day. The Americans say that they're in Baghdad. They are not in Baghdad. They are not. They are back home. They are back home. It's just all propaganda. Go to work, pay your taxes. Anyways, as he's like doing this, there are no tanks in Baghdad. There are like tanks rolling behind him. It's very similar to that. It's a mostly peaceful protest as like the shopping center is on fire, right? It's mostly peaceful except over there. Baghdad Bob. Joe Biden is the sharpest he's ever been. They were calling Joe Scarborough the Baghdad Bob of Joe Biden. He's the sharpest he's ever been. It's like, so CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, there's a Baghdad Bob effect going on right now. Now, I don't want to paint some picture like, the Republicans, the good guys, they've got it in hand. Look, this is war. This is war. Okay. Don't even be surprised if there's not already talk on how to take out Julius Caesar or Donald Trump, just like they talked about taking out Julius Caesar, right? The conspirators, the assassins that took out Julius Caesar, they thought they were saving the Republic by doing that. They had no concept that the Republic was already gone. And that was what Julius Caesar was trying to tell them. You've become ineffectual in your governance. It doesn't work. Right? You've got this huge empire and you guys can only see Rome. You're forgetting about everything else. So Julius Caesar came in as a different type of leader, a populist leader, and it's pretty autocratic. He was like a dictator, and they invented that word and they were proud of it. Okay? So Donald Trump's coming, he's like, listen, your governance doesn't work. I'm going to have to break some eggs, some law and order. You've gotten out of control. Like, not every stinking person we arrest that's a gang member has to be a cartel member, but they're going to get treated like that until such time, right? Because you guys let this get too far. The autocratic right hand. But these guys are personal. They're coming in. They've done this. They're taking out the law firms that have fought them. The Perkins Coie, and they caved. They came in, admitted they were wrong. They want their money. Because Donald Trump, by taking away their security clearances and can't do government business, it's like 90% of their business, right? Ouch. Columbia University did the same thing. They came in, he was threatening their endowment, and now they've completely backed off. At the same time, though, don't think these people are going away. No. But that's why Donald Trump. But remember, when you turn on the news, CNN, MSNBC, part of their job is to tell their viewers that the sky's not falling. Part of their job is to tell their viewers that there's some fight left in them, and to try to somehow rebrand and keep an electoral chance alive, because the electoral map is looking dimmer and dimmer and dimmer for them. However, that doesn't change the fact that every time there's an election, it matters. The House is jerry-rigged to the point to where the Democrats kind of have a favorable majority. So you've got to get out and vote. Point is, it is personal. It is big picture. It is everything. This is an interesting time, man. A really interesting time. Okay. Ineffective government. Again, the fruits of the government. This is Kash Patel. He's been in charge of the FBI for a matter of weeks now. Yeah. Listen to this little report.
Just in the last 3 weeks, Trey, the FBI has arrested and brought to justice, thanks to the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi, 3 top 10 of the FBI's most wanted. Let me just say that again. Not 1, not 2, but 3 of the FBI's most wanted top 10 are now in custody because of our relationships with folks like Director Ratcliffe and Secretary Hegseth and Rubio, and the list goes on. But we've also returned to justice in just one short week's time one of the architects of the Abbey Gate explosion that killed 13 of our service members. We did that in 1 week, flying through multiple countries and going into Pakistan and utilizing our liaison relationships and the leverage that we have, thanks to great guys like Johnny Ratcliffe, and getting a modicum of justice to the American people. And just to put that in perspective, those folks have been on the run for 4 years. And in the last 12 months before I got into this seat, Trey, do you know how many top 10 FBI's most wanted were arrested by the FBI? 0. That's the difference. 4 weeks in, we got 3, and we're just warming up.
Okay. Trey Gowdy drives me absolutely bonkers. I just want to. We'll put my issues with Trey Gowdy aside for the moment. So, 3 of the top 10 most wanted in a matter of weeks, and in the 12 months prior, how many?
Well, zero, because, you know, I've been looking at these lists for a while now and they haven't changed. And I thought these guys, I don't know if these guys even exist anymore. These guys are looking for ghosts.
He did say they had to use Johnny Ratcliffe. That's the CIA right now to get him. Right. But the point is he could. It was within their reach. Apparently closing the border was just a matter of who was in charge. It had nothing to do with laws or anything. You just needed to have the desire to close it. Apparently, you just needed to want to go arrest these people.
Yeah, that is it. You just had to have the gumption.
Again, this has been our government. Like, these are hard pills to swallow, to look into the mirror and recognize, like, whoa, all the reasons the government, second-handers do this, looters do this. They weaponize your virtue against you. All the things that you hold dear, like, hey, I want to take care of my family, and I just assume you do too. And, you know, there's a peaceful coexistence. Like, we're all kind of out for the same thing. As Jimmy Fallon does, we all just want to get paid, and we all just want to get, hey, Dad. So, you could fill in the rhyme. We all just want to get paid, and...
Okay.
So...
Well, you know,
laundry.
if the FBI's top 10 most wanted, you'd think that these would be the focus of the FBI. What have they been doing for 4 years?
You know exactly what they've been doing. You know exactly what they've been doing.
They've been too busy.
This is again, when I was first indicted, my prosecutor, her name was Angela Buckner, and she was a sex crimes prosecutor.
Okay.
So she's all of a sudden doing J6 cases, trespassing cases, sex crimes to trespassing. Like, there is an actual limit of how much time a prosecutor has in the day to work on cases. And we know from whistleblowers' accounts, they were turning down entire caseloads of child pornography, sex crimes, violent crimes to go chase after
you guys.
Misdemeanors.
Yeah.
For the most part. Yeah. I mean, yeah, what have they been doing? What have they been doing? That was one of the things my FBI buddy way back in the day had said. He's like, you know, you think about the FBI, when was the last time you heard like a headline, you know, we caught the kidnapper? It's like, we don't really spend any time on that kind of stuff. You know, it's like,
that's pretty sad.
Turn it all over to the marshals. So I like hearing that the bad guys are being caught. Unfortunately, I have a problem with, I don't always trust who they call bad guys. Right. Again, it's like, I hope we're not just, you know, creating a narrative. Oh, look, now we got Law and Order, right? Is this the Truman Show from the right now? We just as peasants have to keep our nose to the ground. I was noticing gas prices around here haven't actually dropped that much.
No, but a lot of that's state related.
I know it is.
Yeah.
But my gas prices haven't gone down. But eggs have.
Yeah.
That's real, folks. Okay. All right. So this is Tim Waltz. So Tim Waltz.
What do he say now?
It's so crazy. Like, our politicians.
Tim Waltz, he's pretty cringy.
He's really cringy. But it's funny how our politicians, like, man, we just dodged a bullet on this one. There's so many where I think we dodged a bullet, right?
Yeah.
This particular vice president, we dodged a bullet. You think Kamala Harris was bad with her Venn diagrams and her like kind of quirky videos she would do when she was the VP not running for president, you know? Like, Tim Waltz would have just been on a different level. So he came out in Minnesota. He's still the governor. In Minnesota, their pension fund, their state pension fund, is like, their number one investment is Tesla stock. And so Tesla's down. So they've lost like 160 billion in their million in their stock portfolio. And he's out there making fun of Tesla and like, oh, people should just sell that stock. It's garbage. Meanwhile, the state's like, we're highly invested in Tesla. We have all these EV mandates and like there's So somebody got to Tim Waltz, was like, hey, Tim, you can't be like degrading Tesla. So he'd always backtracking. And this is what I find funny with Tim Waltz is he feels the need to reply to like the haters. He feels the need to kind of constantly go back and, oh, I was just being a knucklehead. I learned a lot about democracy when I didn't go to the Tiananmen Square massacre. You know what I mean? Like, he just can't, he doesn't know when to just move on and like let time heal the wound instead of justifying it. So listen to this.
Here we go.
This guy bugs me in a way that is probably unhealthy, and but I I have to be careful about being a smartass. I was making a joke. These people have no sense of humor. They are the most literal people. But my point was they're all mad, and I said something I didn't probably shouldn't have about a company. He is agreed. So I make the case. They're all butthurt about the Tesla thing, but they don't care the disrespect they have shown to employees at the Minneapolis VA who care for our veterans, and they fire them. They don't care. We will have the conversation about efficiency in government and about doing that, but none of us believe for a second they're thinking about this. Oh, we fired everybody that's dealing with Ebola. And then he went into the Oval Office wearing a hat. I don't ever want to hear anybody talk about decorum and respect or that. Wearing a hat, coming in there, richest man in the world. Again, this maybe is just me. If I'm the richest man in the world, I'm like out on the streets handing out the money. It'd be fun as hell just to help people out. Go help people out. Not this guy.
Do you remember somebody criticized Elon Musk about, you're doing this instead of feeding the hungry? And he's like, I'll donate all the money to feed the hungry. How much will it cost? He's like, just give me a number. I'll pay for it all. Like the guy, he's like, I'll do it. Just show me where you can get like 90% of the money actually into the mouths of people. And the guy, he's like, I'll put billions of dollars into it. And the guy just could there's no solution to global famine if you don't there's such an overabundance of food, right? He's like, the problem's not food. Like, you could buy enough food to feed the world. Yeah. It's just everything else. And isn't what Elon Musk doing during the campaign kind of like that, like giving $1 million away to just random people just to register to vote? Like, he does do that kind of stuff, but guys like this act like the money's bad. Anyways, I just think it was, could you imagine having this guy as the vice president versus like JD Vance?
Yeah.
It's hard, isn't it? So Pam Bondi, as far as this judicial coup that's going on right now, so that she was on Maria Bartiromo's show this weekend. This is what she had to do say about kind of getting ahead of these judges that are thwarting Trump's ability to use executive orders.
We are fighting back every step of the way. We are in court every day fighting against these activist judges. We're not going to stop. Many of them should be recused from these cases. They will be recused from these cases. We're appealing them. Look at Chuckin. Look at Judge Chuckin with the EPA trying to control our money. Judge Chang trying to control the money of the U.S. aid. Judge Reyes, look what she did to Pete Hegseth. She made personal attacks in court about Pete Hegseth, and she's trying to control military readiness. You can't do this. And then, of course, Boasberg trying to control our foreign policy. These judges are out of control. We are going to fight back, and we are going to win. And the Supreme Court will be ready to hear these cases. Again, these are federal district judges who are trying to control our nation's agenda. And yes, President Trump won the popular vote by an overwhelming majority. Yep. He won the Electoral College, and the people of America want change. And these judges they are losing, and they realize that, and we are going to win. We are fighting back every step of the way.
So they're basically just doing the lawfare thing, chasing all these executive orders up to the Supreme Court. And I guess we're hoping to get a favorable ruling there. A lot of people are pretty concerned about that because Roberts and Coney Barrett aren't super reliable, I guess you could say.
That's a good word.
Yeah. Okay. Mondays are like, I kind of dread Mondays a little bit.
You're the only one.
I'm the only one. Yeah. Am I the only one? Like, Mondays, are they hard for anybody else? Like, I mean, obviously aside from coming off the weekend, but there feels like there's kind of like a slam back into gear. Like the transmission, like there's a slam back into gear. You take a day or two off from doing a news show like this, where you're commenting on kind of the videos that are floating around and the viral content and trying to kind of see the narrative that's happening, and just taking a day or two off, it feels like you just kind of get slammed up with just a bunch of stuff. And right now, the news cycle, I don't even know if it's a cycle. It's like a jumping jack. Yeah. It's like you're on from one thing to another. Like this USAID story has not even come close to unraveling, right? Because the USAID story, given how long its history is going to find its tentacles reaching into almost every scandal you've ever seen. You're going to find USAID money involved in things like the Fast and Furious scandal. You're going to find USAID money involved in the overthrow of Libya. You're going to find USAID money in just every little nook and cranny. You're going to find USAID money in the Kosovo war in the 90s.
Right.
I mean, it's just, we're going to find out things that we didn't even know that we were looking for.
I was just talking to somebody about Al Gore the other day, and like, I wonder what the USAID connection is with him.
Oh, all the climate change money.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's
absolutely.
That's kind of when it feels. That's what it feels to me like. This whole like we need to get in on the scam started, because Al Gore was like an insta-billionaire, and it was like, oh shoot, we got a lot of money here.
Well, and you've got to remember, like, anytime you've got a society where people get richer from pull, right? So this is from Ayn Rand. When you see that in order to produce, you need to obtain permission from men who produce nothing. When you see that money is flowing to those who deal not in goods but in favors. When you see that men get richer by graft and by pull than by work, and your laws don't protect you against them but protect them against you. When you see corruption being rewarded and honesty becoming a self-sacrifice, you may know that your society is doomed. So everything we've been talking about, the government lying, right? You're obviously sowing some bad karma by overthrowing other Democrat elected governments and things like that. You've got the invasion into our own personal households and all this kind of stuff. You think about someone like an Al Gore or a John Kerry. When you see that in order to produce, you want to have an industry. Oh, you need carbon credits. Why? You need permission from us. No, we don't do anything, but we'll manage these carbon credits for you. Well, what does that do? Oh, we'll funnel it back into some other green initiatives. Oh, okay. So I'm like offsetting my pollution. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. Well, okay.
It's just a grift.
So I need permission from men who produce nothing.
Yeah.
What does Al Gore produce? What does he make? Where are his factories? How much real estate does he own? Can I stay in his resorts?
He just makes
money. Can I rent from him? Is there anything? No. He just talks about climate change. He's continuously wrong about it. But we need permission from him if we want to do anything that produces smoke. He doesn't do anything. When you see money is flowing to those who deal not in goods but in favors, when you see that men get richer by graft and pull than by work, these guys fly around in private jets, and they literally contribute nothing to the GDP. They're siphoning off of it. And your laws don't protect you against them. Like, they can come in and loot your business, but you can't ask to audit their NGOs.
They're unauditable.
They can trigger an IRS to come in and look at every receipt and make sure everything you did was above board, and that any piece of tool that you bought didn't get written off and you paid the tax on it, and any other product that you bought went into some value added good so you can write it off on your cost basis, and blah, 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 blah. But hey, NGO, do you mind if we look at where that $5 million grant you got went? Because I see your board of directors sitting mighty fat and happy. Why do you guys need a private jet to talk about climate change? Oh, well, I'm saving the planet more by getting other people not to fly their private jets. So if I fly my private jet, but I can prevent 2 rich people from not flying, then it justifies. What are you talking about? You may know that your society is doomed. Ayn Rand.
Yep.
So something we always kind of have to keep in the forefront, because we as peasants, we have to live here. Our perspective is, oh, guess what? Sun rises tomorrow, and if I'm going to plant my crops, I better be ready to go. So we want to see things for what they are, not for the narrative. Obviously, January 6th is very important to me, and probably a fair amount of our audience. Okay. This is Darren Beattie talking to Steve Bannon about the J6 thing. And again, remember that transparency that I had in college with the false flag and the narrative, and then you get, we've just lived through one of these, and maybe for the first time in my living histories, we might have caught one of these cycles all at once, right? You think about Gulf of Tonkin. If we'd have caught Gulf of Tonkin as an American populace, if 50% of the country had realized the Gulf of Tonkin wasn't legit, the Vietnam War might have wrapped up a lot sooner.
It might not have happened.
Right?
Yeah.
You can go through a series of events that if we knew the truth, if we knew that Saddam Hussein did absolutely not have weapons of mass destruction.
There was no yellow cake.
There was no yellow cake. We might have had a different perspective into marching into Baghdad. Right? Point being, this J6 narrative, the 2016 election, the Russia Gate, the Ukraine Gate, the Ukraine-Russia war, these are all tied, January 6th, these are all tied together. These are all tied together in a series of false flag event creates moral imperative to then use power and force to do something that we normally would not tolerate as a population. You would normally not tolerate your neighbors being wrapped up on misdemeanor charges with tanks in their front yard and thrown away into federal prisons
and waterboarded,
unless you thought that it was a threat to democracy and the largest attack on democracy since the Civil War. So as long as those words are said, then it's okay that there's a Bradley tank in my neighbor's front yard.
Well,
it's okay that Taylor gets taken away from his family for 14 months and spends 2 Christmases in a freaking prison.
Yeah, and
right? It's okay because, threat against democracy. Do you see what I'm saying? They create that moral reason to then load the gun that you've handed them.
Well, there's no better way to garner and get the American public to surround you when you got a couple of buildings in New York that fall down. Ugh.
And a third.
Oh,
but it's inexplicable.
Sure.
Right. And I don't want to make this a conspiracy show because we don't have to. We just talk about the news, and they're going to call you that anyways because you're a moderate. And to the extremists on the left and right, you're the freaking crazy one. All right. So this is Darren Beattie talking about the January 6th narrative because it's another one of these critical linchpins. If we can pull some of these pins in the public awareness, you'll start to, you'll see the trust evaporate on these institutions, and that's when you're starting to see the change. That's the whole point of the Trump presidency is people are like, listen, we need change. How far we go, we'll find out.
He's here.
Well, it's great to be back here on the War Room and to speak to this highly informed audience. And, we've all taken this ride together. The entire Fedsurrection story, bit by bit, pillar by pillar, we've demolished for years now right here on the War Room, and things are coming to a head. Things are culminating. We're at the final stages of utterly collapsing this Fedsurrection narrative of January 6th. And before I get into the really explosive developments on this case, I want to just say a little bit about what the stakes are and why this is important. This is not something that the Democrats have moved on from. Quite the contrary, Joe Biden made this a major part of his speech. He gave a over hour-long speech on the 3rd anniversary of January 6th. The sham theory that Trump instigated this insurrection, which wasn't even an insurrection, but the sham theory behind that is the legal basis on which they're trying to remove Trump from the ballot because they see that he's by far the front runner for 2024. If they don't employ extracurricular means to stop him and to stop the democratic process, they're going to have Trump in the White House again, and that's the last thing they want. I've said for years now that these corrupt scumbags are going to do everything in their power to make sure that the American people can never meddle in their own elections again. And January 6th and the lies surrounding it are the chief instruments of them doing that. So I think it's important to understand that these are the stakes. And this is what's going to happen when this entire narrative crumbles in their face. There is a video that we've been discussing that is now, it's gone mega viral. It's the subject of this piece in American Mind. It's a video of the DNC pipe bomb being discovered. And I encourage people, go to revolver.news, watch the video. And follow along, because right away, just as a self-contained issue, it's clear that something is very, very rotten. If not in Denmark, then on Canal Street, right by the DNC, because you see a guy in a backpack walking up to the Secret Service that's parked outside of the DNC, informs the Secret Service that there's a pipe bomb just feet away, and the Secret Service acts with utter lack of concern. Takes them over a minute to even get out of their vehicles, at which point they just linger around in the most lackadaisical fashion imaginable. They don't do anything. In fact, the biggest scandal of this video is they actually allow a group of children to cross the street in the direction of the pipe bomb and walk within feet of it. They're standing around unconcerned. They allow children to walk within feet of the pipe bomb. A Capitol Police officer walks right up to it, snaps a picture, gives a thumbs up sign, and then for the first time in the whole 7-minute video clip, they actually hustle and get the heck out of there. But they don't hustle when they're informed of the bomb. They don't care about themselves. They don't care about their protectee, Kamala Harris, and we'll get into that shortly. They don't even care about these children. It's clear they know that the bomb is fake. They know it's a dud. The only question is, how would the Secret Service know that this bomb that was just discovered was fake? How would they know that? And then once they all leave, I've spoken to people who've seen the extended video, which is not public yet, and we're hoping to make it public. But just minutes after they all scrambled to leave, they defused the bomb with a bomb-safe robot. So the bomb that was so benign that they weren't worried about it for Kamala, for themselves, or for children, they have to get a bomb-safe robot to give the spectacle that this is actually a danger. When clear they know that it's fake.
Huh. It's clear they know it's fake.
I've never seen that before.
Exactly. Which is why we're still talking about it, because it's important to me. January 6th is a linchpin to a lot of things because it's a real-time moment. And we're here. I can tell the story. Right? There's a lot of 1,500 of us, 1,600 of us now walking around as Joy Reid was terrified. You know what? Just harassing your local Walmart security guards. No, but I mean, really, it's like a real-time event. Like, who benefited from January 6th? Who set that up? This pipe bomb thing that was like,
well,
that was the event.
The American public clearly did not benefit from this.
Let's say Donald Trump had thrown a complete curveball and had talked for 3 more hours. Or let's say that he had said, oh, hey, we're actually going to go meet for ice creams up at Big Judd's over in Arlington. And the whole crowd went the other direction. Pipe bomb event still happened. They can still pull off the entire January 6th narrative just with some crazy MAGA bombers and they're deranged and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pipe bomb.
It's got to be flexible.
It's another one of these yellow cake events. Another one of these Gulf of Tonkin things. Right? Doesn't mean that those events don't really happen. It just means
your theory of the case here
that they're trying to push an agenda. They're feeding a war machine. As David Sachs says, a super government means super lies. Right? Including lies big enough to demonize its own citizens, demonize the cream of its crop. You know what I mean? That's what they tried to accomplish with January 6th. And remember, we talk about CNN, MSNBC. This is a super clip of just a whole bunch of different commentators during the COVID era telling you not to trust or do your own research. Think about, as you listen to this, how belittling they are to you, about your ability to get information and make your own decisions. These are the people right now that are trying to tell you that they have a fighting chance. These are the people right now that are trying to tell you, you know, their crazy ideas are working, that crime is down, that inflation's down, that, you know, there's peace across in the world, you know, all the nonsense they're trying. Same people, folks. Same people. All right.
You think that they can do their own research. Don't do any of your own research.
Doing your own research is associated with conspiracy theories.
This go it alone approach, doing your own research, that can have serious consequences.
You should get prison time for even questioning the vaccine.
Can we all stop saying, I need to do my own research?
That phrase, do your own research, 4 words, 4 little words that are hurting America.
Doing your own research hurts America.
Everybody has a supercomputer in their hand that empowers them to do their own research, and that's the problem.
You must not do your own research.
I need to do my own research.
I don't understand what that means. I'm doing my own research.
You can't do your own research unless you're a scientist.
So do your own research.
Maybe you've told yourself you're playing it safe. You just want to wait and see since this is a new vaccine. No.
Grow the up and get the vaccine.
Unvaccinated people spread the virus.
It's a vaccine, you dope.
Don't be a get yourself vaccinated. That's just all there is to it. There's no excuse. No excuse for being unvaccinated.
There's no rational and no emotional argument that adds up against getting your damn shot. There just isn't.
We want to make sure that people can discern
the truth from the misinformation. And we want to make sure that everyone understands that no one's safe till everyone's safe.
No one is 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 safe.
Nobody's safe.
No one is safe.
Nobody is safe.
This is a post 9/11 axiom. Safer, but not yet safe.
No one is safe. No one is safe. No one is safe. No one is safe.
I feel safer.
Super governments need super lies. Don't research this. Wow. So as a peasant, should I have alarm bells going off? We did. Clearly we did. I mean, we started this entire show. Sent me on a huge trajectory that led to sitting in a prison in khakis looking out a broken window with bars.
Well, I think
I get it.
I think you started the show before any of those clips ever happened.
And that was the crazy thing. That was back in the days when you could do your own research.
Oh,
we would
yeah.
criticize you.
I remember kids gather around. Back in the day, we used to do our own research.
We used to do our own research and develop our own opinions, and we liked it that way.
Yeah.
So the reason I wanted to bring that up at the end, starting out with the Alex Jones, man, he called 9/11.
He was doing his own research. Jeez. That's what happens, kids. If you do too much research, you turn to Alex Jones.
These the left is not sophisticated any more than the right.
No.
Okay, there are smoke-filled rooms. There are deals cut behind doors that we don't get to see. Clearly, we talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
But a lot of this bigger agenda stuff is totally out there in the open. You don't have to be, a conspiracy theorist or believe in the mark of the beast or apocalypse or anything like that to know that transhumanists are trying to put chips in your hand to basically spend less money on plastic for credit cards. Like, to them, it's an economic thing.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with, now the net result of that is like total control and dominion, but to them, it's just way more convenient.
Yeah, it's kind of like the gas company's coming by my house this week. I got a notice they're going to put in a new meter. You know what that new meter does? It just makes it so they can read the meter without coming to the meter.
Exactly.
It just makes less friction, makes things move easier.
On their end, it's perfect until you realize that part of that was their ability for them to just go and shut you off without due process.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's that simple.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to create someone going out there and all,
Right.
It is. So you give them a lot for convenience, you give them control. For security, we give away our freedom.
Right.
And I have a relation that's a microbiologist, has advanced degrees in microbiology and stuff like that. And, when she's in college and doing her internship, she's working with these virologists. She's a virologist, essentially, and she's like, none of them think that they're destroying the world or that they're doing population control or that they're creating, they all think they're saving the world. They all think that they're curing cancer.
Yeah.
And she's like, compartmentalized, that's how things are. But peasants, big picture, they've told us exactly what the climate change agenda is, what the property agenda is, what the new world order is going to look like, and they've told us it. And then not only that, they're putting it into practice. We see what their inner city governance looks like. We see what their educational outcomes when we put them in charge of education. We see what they do when we put them in charge of defense. There's no defense, but there's some really crappy rinkety wars happening all around the world that we're funding and providing stuff for.
Yeah, they still churn and make money.
Everything. Do your own research. Make your own decisions. We, the people, are sovereign. Vox populi, vox dei. We have to internalize that for us individually. You have to be the change you want to see in the world.
Become self-reliant.
In every aspect. Right? And then that radiates outward to where our country becomes self-reliant. And that's what we're seeing. Donald Trump wants to make us self-reliant, less reliant on the second-hander looter economic model where we constantly have to take over new markets and new resources. That's important. That's part of the free market. Like Greenland, here we come. Right? But the difference is we're doing it for betterment overall, access for all, not just the elites. This is Tucker Carlson talking about, again, this left-right, autocratic, bureaucratic analysis and kind of what's coming if we're not aware. This is kind of a broad-ranging little topic here, but we're going to wrap up with this.
The whole planet knows that Trump means business.
Can I say something that I probably shouldn't say it, but I just think I was noticing it? Bukele's an authoritarian leader. Just saying that. He's my friend. I love Bukele, but he's an authoritarian leader.
What he wants goes is what you're saying.
He is also democratically elected by the highest margin of any elected leader in the world. So he's the most popular elected leader, but he's also authoritarian. He's a right-wing leader. He's not a dictator. He's elected, but he's an authoritarian. Right-wing authoritarianism is very popular, and it always has been popular. Bigotry, Nazi shit where you're like killing Jews is disgusting. And everyone hates that. Everyone should hate that. I hate that. But, nationalism, hardcore, like we're serious. We're going to protect our country, and anyone who threatens our country is in trouble. That is very popular. And we have spent decades hearing how that's not popular, how it's immoral. It's popular. Left-wing authoritarianism is not popular and never has been, because it's contrary to human nature and it's contrary to God. It's anti-God. And people are inherently aware that God exists. And if you pretend you're God, you're a pretender. So anyway, Bukele is like a very powerful model for how the world is going. What we're doing is not working. I want democracy. I love democracy. Free speech is the most important thing to me. I'm not calling for I want to preserve that. But I also think globally, Bukele, there are going to be a lot more leaders like Bukele. It's just a fact. There are.
But it's about, in this case, it's about restoring order. It's like there's so much disorder.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. There's so much disorder because of the left.
So you can never defeat crime in this country, which is like truly out of control. And I wish we'd stop talking about the mullahs getting the bomb. Oh, shut up. Pakistan's had the bomb for 25 years. Are you upset about that? I don't want Iran to get a bomb. Nobody does. But that's not our most pressing problem. Our most pressing problem is in Midtown Manhattan. Like this is insane. This is our country.
Yeah.
The Ayatollah is getting the bomb. Again, please shut up. Stop. There are a million problems in the world. Let's start with ours. And to fix ours is going to take resolve, like real resolve. Like we're not putting up with this crap, period. And I don't know who, at some point, someone's going to take that posture, and that will be the most popular president this country's ever had.
So how do you describe the Biden presidency then? Because
totally confusing. I mean, I'm from DC. I spent my whole life there. I know a lot of the Biden people. I shared a backyard with Susan Rice for 5 years. I feel like I kind of am from that world.
But it's not,
but I don't know who made the decisions. I still don't understand.
Right. But how do you describe that? Because it's not authoritarian insofar as Biden's not calling the shots on everything. It's literally the polar opposite of it in a way, that he's got a cabal of advisors
around him. It was technocratic
him
fascism. I mean, I guess I could probably think of a more descriptive label, but I would say its orientation was really simple. All the big decisions led to the same place, which was to destroy the United States of America and its legacy population. And so they were famously anti-white. They hated white people. They said it a million times. White supremacy is the biggest threat. But what are they really saying? They're saying America as it is now is bad and we're going to destroy it. And they did everything they could to abet the deaths of hundreds of thousands of legacy Americans through drug ODs, suicide, diabetes. Like everything they did was aimed at killing the people whose ancestors lived here during the Civil War. Just a fact. Oh, look at the numbers. And as I heard someone say the other day, the point of a system is its effect. So it's like whatever you claim your motive is kind of irrelevant to me. I'm looking at the effects of what you do. That's the point.
Right.
You can.
That right there, whatever the effect is it. Doesn't matter if the boot's coming from the right or the left, it's still a boot on my neck. My one and only job in all of this is to help you have a perspective of a peasant. You are a peasant. At the end of the day, you are a peasant. You are the guy that gets trodden on. You are the one that continuously is sought out by the oppressors of this world to be made into victims. It is just your lot in life. All of us are peasants. Okay? I don't care if you're strapping up the boot as a communist dictator or as a fascist dictator or as a bureaucratic dictator. I don't care. So as peasants, we want to guard against this. Okay? We want to guard against the tendencies both of our own side as well as the other side to get to those extreme ends that result in civil war and violence and all those things, just like that chart we showed earlier here, right? Just like this right here. We want to avoid going either direction. I appreciate Tucker Carlson because he kind of shares this mentality. I don't really care what's going on in Iran. You can't take care of Midtown Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are we doing in Iran? I don't want him to get a bomb either, but I mean, like, get it done. You know, like either fix the problem or just fix Manhattan. So let's finish what he has to say.
Say that's not your motive, but if you keep doing it, it is your motive.
Yeah,
it's
because
demonstrable.
It's a nonstop attack
in my writing. I'm gonna have to remember which one, but I talk about the Hegelian dialectic and how Donald Trump comes in with the common sense. Like, let's be pro-life, let's be anti-war and pro-life. And forever the Hegelian dialectic has split every issue. You know, you got to be pro-war to be pro-choice. You have to be anti-war to be pro-life, or the other way around. The other way around. But either way, you're death. Like, if I want to support babies in the womb, I got to go fight overseas. If I want to stop fighting overseas, I got to support abortion. And to them, they're like, well, either way, we're getting death. So it's population control. It's going after that legacy population, the illegal immigration, all of that stuff adds up to the net result.
Every possible sense. So whether it's like physical attacks in the form of fentanyl, chemical poisoning of Americans, or just like attacking your culture nonstop.
Forcing everyone to take the COVID vax when you're pretty sure it's going to cause fertility declines? Like, what?
And
you're trying to thin out the population of the existing of the country as it existed when you took office.
And adopting this posture that there's nothing redeeming about our country, which is like to constantly like wage war.
But openly hating it. And the people who live here, I just go back. I really believe the essential criterion for leadership is the love of the people you lead. You have to have that. Right. And if you don't, they'll die. And that you're the son of a Marine Corps officer, Marine Corps general. So you grew up with this. The officer has to, on some level, love his troops more than himself. Mm-hmm. That's how you have to feel about your children, or they will be destroyed. You have to be willing to give up your life for the people you lead, or else don't lead.
That's right. And meanwhile, the left resents the governed. They resent them.
They hated them.
They hate the system.
They died under. Look at the suicide rate. What does that tell you? If I'm, if my kids start killing themselves, I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
There's nothing more pressing for me. No, everyone ignored the suicide rate. And then they're like, you know what we need? We need more suicide. Maybe the government will sponsor suicide. Killing our own citizens.
Yes.
And then it happens in Canada. And like our biggest trading partner, our longest shared border, and no one says a word about it.
No State Department dispatches, nothing.
They're murdering thousands of native-born Canadians every year. The government is murdering them. Not just for, chronic, not just for terminal diagnoses, but for chronic illnesses and then depression and then poverty, just kill them. And that's like, look, all that matters are the big things. Are people living? Are they dying? Are they thriving?
Yeah.
Or are they falling apart? Yes. Are they enhanced or are they diminished? And by all those measurements, he wrecked our country.
Yeah. Up in Canada, he's basically, if you get terminal illness, this is the end stage of your collective healthcare systems. Death panels. We can't afford to keep it going on that cancer med, so good luck. Oh, by the way, we set up the system, so this is your only option now.
Oh, jeez.
That's the end stage, right? And there we are. We're just watching it happen, and we're like, whatever. Healthcare for everybody. It's good for life, even though it has a net negative result. Clearly. It's not a secret to anybody. I mean, since the day they passed a lot of this stuff, this is what the critics have been saying. We have to step into our place and be those critics. We have to guard against the right as well as the left, right? Because we're peasants. At the end of the day, that's what this is all about. We're in charge of this place. All right, folks, just to remind you, the 1776 live, we've started that. So here, I'll click the link where you can get access to the Zoom meeting on the 30th right here. You can see there. You're going to click it in. So anyways, I'll put this link in all the show notes and show descriptions when we upload the show and put a label on the live and all that kind of stuff. So it was so great having you guys today. Did we have a good live showing today, Ron? How'd we do?
It didn't move much.
Didn't move much. Well, that's great. Those of you that joined us, later in today, welcome. All right, guys, we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.
Who are the Britons?
We all are. We are all Britons. And I am your king.
Didn't know we had a king. I thought we were an autonomous collective.
You're fooling yourself. We're living in a dictatorship. A self-perpetuating autocracy in which the working classes...
Oh, there you go, bringing class into it again.
Well, that's what it's all about. If only people would... Please, good people, I am in haste. Who lives in that castle?
No one lives there.
Then who is your lord?
We don't have a lord.
What? I told you. We're an anarcho-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week.
Yes.
But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting.
Yes, I see.
By a simple majority in the case of purely internal affairs.
Be quiet.
But by a 2/3 majority in the case of more
Be quiet. I order you to be quiet.
Order, who does he think he is?
I'm your king.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
You don't vote for kings.
Well, how'd you become king then?
The Lady of the Lake, her arm clad in the purest shimmering samite, held aloft Excalibur from the bosom of the wartime, signifying by divine providence that I, Arthur, was to carry Excalibur. That is why I'm your king.
Listen, strange women lying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government. Supreme executive power derives from a mandate from the masses, not from some farcical aquatic ceremony.
Be quiet!
But you can't expect to wield supreme executive power just because some watery tart threw a sword at you.
Shut up!
I mean, if I went round saying I was an emperor, just because some moistened bint had lobbed a scimitar at me, they'd put me away.
Shut up! Will you shut up?
Ah, now we see the violence inherent in the system.
Shut up!
Oh, come and see the violence inherent in the system. Help, help, I'm being repressed.
Bloody peasant!
Oh, what a giveaway. Did you hear that? Did you hear that, eh? That's what I'm on about. Did you see him repressing me?